Good afternoon. Welcome to the College for Every Student live chat. I'm Elaine Dixon-Cross, the College and Career Ambassador at CFES. I'm joined by Aurora Butera and Deirdre McAdams, both working as fellows with College for Every Student. Aurora and Deirdre will be talking about essential skills for thriving in college and career. Aurora graduated in 2016 from Union College, and Deirdre from Trinity College Dublin in 2016 also. Aurora, you're up.
Okay, well, I'm going to be talking primarily about strategies for thriving in college, because I think that if you establish how to get these essential skills integrated into your everyday life in college, that you won't have to work as hard, because it'll already be an established practice for you once you're in career. So that's kind of going to be my focus if you see me, focusing on college more. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was goal setting and following through. And that's because I think goal setting can be a really empowering tool to overcome barriers in your life to help you set higher education goals. So I think that I picked this one because goal setting was a really empowering tool for me to, finally let go of things that were barriers in my life that held me back from achieving academic success, and really take responsibility for improving myself academically and socially. So I just wanted to give you some strategies on how you can set goals that will help you thrive in college and then ultimately in career. Pretty much, if you want to set a goal that would help you in college, you can start by thinking, this is if you're unsure. If you already have a goal, that's great. But if you're unsure of how you could make yourself better as a student or as a peer, you can start to brainstorm a list of all your strengths and weaknesses. And I think that is a good starting point, because then you can think about the areas that you think that you could improve and work on ways, to make your weaknesses strengths. The thing about goal setting, why I said setting goals and following through, is because I think sometimes it's easy to set a goal, but sometimes, if you don't follow through with it, you're not going to achieve it. So I'm just going to give you a little quick tips on how to follow through with your goals so that you achieve them and get more strengths than you had in the beginning. So the number one thing I think you have to focus on is determination and persistence, because I think without those things, it's really hard to accomplish any goal. You have to stay focused and know what it is you want to do, and you have to hold yourself accountable to accomplish it, because in the end, that's the only way you're gonna get something you want done. And a good way to help with that, especially if you have a long-term goal, would be to set up some sort of a timeline that you can hold yourself accountable to. Like, let's say you wanted to raise your chemistry grade by 1 grade point, so from a C to a B. Let's say you wanted to do that before the end of the next quarter in school. So you set this nice long timeline. You can work towards it every day or week, and eventually, you'll raise up your grade a bit. And I just think it's important to remember when setting goals that sometimes your timeline needs to be readjusted. So if you don't get completely to the grade you want, don't just give up on it. Just set another goal, more further in the future, so that you can eventually achieve your goals.
Aurora, you're probably speaking from experience. Did that happen to you? Did you have to readjust timelines from your freshman year to your senior year
in college?
And did you learn each year from one year to the next? Did you learn, oh, I need to do this differently?
Yeah,
goal setting?
Definitely. Especially, I started working at becoming a better student in middle school and high school, and to me, that just in my mind, I was like, I want to get all A's, but at the time, realistically, I was getting C's and D's. So I kind of set a little too high of a goal for the next quarter or two in school. But it turned out that I had to adjust it based on probably 5 years. It really took me till the end of my high school career. And then I just started getting college because the workload changed to really accomplish the grades I actually wanted. But it's good to notice any area of progress and to congratulate yourself.
You must have done a good job because Union's a great school.
Oh, thank you.
So before we go to Deirdre's first essential skill, I just want to interject by saying that if anyone has a question for Deirdre or Aurora, please type it in and we'll ask it for you. Deirdre?
Yeah, okay. So thanks, Elaine, and thanks, Aurora. Yeah, so my first essential skill that I would like to share that helped me to thrive, I guess, in college is, or what it was, active engagement. So I think engagement is really important. And I mean, what do I mean by that? A number of things, I guess. I mean, actively engage in your coursework and in your lectures and that sort of thing, you know. Put up your hand and ask questions because, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess, if you're sitting there with a question during a lecture, the likelihood is that a number of other students around you also have that question. So you're not only doing yourself a favor by engaging in that way, you're also doing other people a favor who are maybe a little bit too shy to put up their hands and ask in the middle of a big class. I also mean engage outside of your coursework. So I mean, join a sports club or a society. I know with a number of my friends in college that helped them a lot. And I mean, well, for me, I actively engaged in volunteering. So I loved it. I got into college through the Trinity Access program. So for 5 years when I was there, I actively volunteered with them. And I mean, that's a great sense of achievement also because you really have that kind of community giving and giving back aspect to it too, which kind of, I know you're in college to get your degree, but also it makes it worthwhile and you know you're doing something good outside of your coursework. So I would say that all of those are kind of like examples of engaging that everyone should follow, you know. So
yeah, that's great advice. And you have a little more fun too when you're fully engaged,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
All right, our next essential skill, Aurora.
Okay, so the next essential skill that I wanted to talk about would be time management and accountability. So that's actually two. So I should have said essential skills. But I picked these because I think that time management and accountability can really help you get the things that you want to get done or the things that you care about and want to make time for all fit into your day or week or however it is you schedule your time so that you can feel like you are doing everything that you want to be doing in your life because it is your life. So, you know, you get to pick the things that you want to be focused on in college, and I guess you do pick your own career, so in career. So the first thing you'll notice when you go to college is that you're going to have a lot of free time. That's because you're not in class from like 7:30 to like 3 p.m. every day. Like your class might be an hour 3 times a week, which was what my school did usually. So you're going to have to figure out how you can schedule in your homework and then all the extracurricular activities that Deirdre was talking about into your day so that you feel like you are getting the most out of your college experience, which I think is important because college is very expensive and a very good stepping stone in your life. So it's important to get the most out of it that you possibly can. So there's two things I think that change in college. You're going to have lots of work to do because it's a step up from high school. You know, it's preparing you for the workforce. So your workload is naturally going to get bigger. So you're going to have to schedule in some time to adjust for that. So personally, when I was in college, I had to factor in extra time for homework because it was a completely different environment and I had to learn how to get new skills in college to get the work I needed done on time because the skills or the strategies I had in high school weren't going to cut it anymore. And then another thing I think that's different in college is that there's a lot more stuff going on. So you'll have an opportunity to volunteer or join some kind of societies or clubs or, you know, sports or even take up part-time jobs, you know. And I think there's enough time in college to get as much as you want done. It's just a matter of, you know, keeping yourself on a schedule and getting everything that you want done. This is something that I think I was really good at in college because I managed at one point at the height of my college career to work 3 part-time jobs as a full-time student and get a 4.0. And, you know, it worked for me because I learned how that I worked best and I learned like how to plan all my time out. So what worked for me when I was in college was I would wake up before I had to go in class or before I had to go to work or anything, and I would do most of my homework in the morning because I'm a morning person, and that's when I learned I was the most productive. So I would say that you will be more productive yourself and spend less time on tasks if you figure out what time of the day you work best, where you work best, if that's in a library, if it's in, you know, a room with just yourself, you know. So once you figure out those things, I think you'll utilize your time more efficiently. And a big part of time management is keeping track of everything that you have to do. So I would suggest getting yourself a planner. You know, it doesn't need to be fancy. You can spend $70 on a planner, but if you don't write on it, it's not going to do you any good. So get yourself a planner, you know, one that you like, you know, but it doesn't have to be too crazy. If you want it to be, that's fine. And just schedule in everything that you know you have to do in a day. Like if you have class, write in that class. Even if you already know what time it is, it's good to remind yourself so that you don't forget. And then if you have a club that you care about or volunteer on the weekend at a certain time, write those times in too. And then when you recognize you have a little spare time, try to schedule in time for homework. Because they say in college that every hour you're in class, you should be spending about 2 hours outside of class on work. And I found that to be true as well. But you know, sometimes it's not as clear cut as that, because sometimes you will have to spend a considerable amount more, excuse me, an amount of time that's longer than that outside of class. And sometimes you have to spend less. So it's about finding out what works for you and what you need to do to get everything done.
Okay, and we do have a question. Did either of you go into college knowing what your major was, or did you pick it once you were already in college? Deirdre, let's start with you.
Yeah, I studied medicinal chemistry and I went direct entry into medicinal chemistry. But
so you knew that's what you wanted to do in high school?
No, I didn't. So in high school, I knew I was drawn to science, but I didn't know what particular area. I kind of knew chemistry, but I was thinking maybe pharmacy I wanted to go into as a degree. But the one-year foundation course that I took part in, offered to me by the Trinity Access programs, is really when I made up my mind what I wanted to do. And it was through the guidance counselor there, all the staff members on hand. I had a great chemistry tutor who really inspired me to go into chemistry, and we done a lot of course research before really considering any of them, which helped a lot. So that's when I knew after.
Excellent. Aurora?
Yeah. Well, I knew one of my majors. I had a really awesome AP Euro teacher in high school senior year, Miss Wood, because of you. And she really helped me develop a passion for history. So I knew going into college I wanted to study that. But I realized once I got there that I wouldn't be pushing myself enough if I didn't take on another major as well, because I thought the requirements were pretty relaxed for just one, and I felt like I had a lot of time. So I knew I wanted to double major, but I didn't know going in what major I wanted to tack on with history. And it turned out about halfway through my freshman year, I was taking a class to fulfill a general education requirement, which, because I went to Union, which is a liberal arts school, was a language requirement. I was taking ancient Greek. For what reason? I don't know. I just heard the professor was good, and he pretty much, you know, also helped me develop a passion for ancient Greek and Latin. And
so he lived up to his reputation?
He lived up to his reputation. Yep, Hans Friedrich Otto Mueller, great guy. And yeah. So.
Okay, great. Before we move on to our next essential skill, we want to send a shout out to our Willsboro friends, and I know we have some mentors here to some Willsboro students.
Hi,
so
hi. Thanks for tuning in.
And our next essential skill, Deirdre.
Yeah. So next, I would like to talk about perseverance and a little bit of like self-belief, because I think it's very important to persevere throughout college. I had a number of friends who maybe struggled a little bit, and because of their perseverance, they went on and continued to do well. Like, nobody believes when they go into college that it's going to be a walk in the park. So when difficulties arise, you have to remember the reason you began and what the outcome is that you're thriving for, you know, or striving for. So perseverance, persevere. And I can give one example of when I had to for the guts of a full year. So it was my third year in college, and we always had a report due on the weekend, well, before the weekend. So I would have to, you know, plow through Monday through Friday while going to classes, going to lectures, doing labs, and then I always had this one big massive report to submit on the Friday. But what I done was I believed in myself. That was one major thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with giving yourself a pat on the back when you think you've done well. But because I kept going, I said to myself, I'll give myself a little reward. So I would work hard throughout the week, Monday to Friday, and then come the weekend, I would spend time with people, my friends. I would socialize, because that's a very important thing to do while you're in college, especially when you have a pile of work that needs to get done. You need to socialize and talk to people and be around people that make you happy. So that was an example of when I had to persevere throughout a tough period, but it definitely paid off with a reward at the end, which was nice.
Oh, great question from an audience member in New York City. Did either of you ever feel like quitting, dropping out, that you weren't going to make it? This comes great question after perseverance.
Okay.
I can't say that I ever felt like quitting. I definitely felt like I was failing at one stage, but you know, through the perseverance, I never did, thankfully. But no, quitting, my heart was always in it. I loved the degree, I loved the coursework, and I knew I wanted to pursue an academic career afterwards, and I knew a degree was what I needed. So no.
Great, and you succeeded. Good job.
I did.
We're proud of you.
Yeah.
And what about you, Aurora?
I actually did feel like quitting at one point, so I'm really happy that question came up. Thank you, New York City. My first trimester in college, union does trimesters instead of semesters, so I end up talking about things in a weird way. So my first trimester, I was really struggling to adjust to the coursework that college was, and I was getting the lowest grades I ever got in college my freshman year, and that's completely normal. I know so many people that happen to, because it is an adjustment time in your life. I remember I was just calling my dad one day because I couldn't figure out how to write a philosophy paper because I'd never taken a philosophy class, and I just called him and I was crying on the phone, and I was just like, Dad, I don't know if I'm smart enough for this school. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I can't write this paper. I spent all day making an outline and I still haven't even started, and it's due next week. But eventually, you know, I stuck with it, and things do get easier because you do learn. As long as you do stick to your goals and working hard towards things, you will adjust in a reasonable amount of time. And it's okay if you struggle in the beginning, because I ended up graduating and doing really well. So it's good to stick it out.
Great job. And reach out to your network of family, friends,
Yeah.
you know, people that care about you.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. I mean, I've definitely had some tough times when I was in college, and it was just a matter of calling my mom. You know, she was great, and you just need that kind of sound voice that will guide you through it. And yeah, my mom was just great. She talks so much sense, you know, and it's when you can't see through something, they can. So yeah, it's a matter of reaching out and talking to your network of people and family, especially, and friends, if you ever do feel like.
And lots of people have been there. Right?
Absolutely.
And along those lines, a question from San Jose: how do you balance jobs and classwork and doing well in both?
Okay.
Go ahead. Aurora.
Okay. Well, I would say it is kind of tricky, and I won't lie, at times I was overwhelmed, and I don't necessarily recommend working 3 part-time jobs. But, you know, for me, I like the waking up early things. I work better in the morning. That helped me do the most coursework that I could possibly do in the least amount of time. That's when my brain works the best, because I'm not very good at doing work at night. So I always just write that off. But, you know, you can't really overbook yourself either. You really have to take on the things that you know you can handle, so that you don't get to the point where you have to miss things. So I just gauging, you know, how much work you have at the time, or if you have a semester when you're really busy, you know, when you're taking really hard classes. Like, I bet organic chemistry is a really hard one for most people at my school that were science-related major people. They wouldn't necessarily be taking on more like part-time hours than they could handle, or even any. So it's all about gauging, you know, the level of hardness in your classes and the amount of time you need to dedicate to that, and don't take on more work hours than you can handle.
Do you want to add to that, Deirdre?
Just maybe a small add is yet to, like you said about making a planner earlier, but a realistic one. I remember at one stage I had my timetable printed out, and I had every hour of every day blocked out for some sort of reason, and I never factored in, you know, unexpected things that happen. You bump into a friend you haven't seen in a long time, and you end up spending 2 hours talking to them, you know, and then where do those 2 hours go? They get pushed into the next day. So that for me it didn't help, you know, kind of having something that was planned out down to a T every day. So I would say to make a realistic plan, like we were talking about, you know, to be able to factor in time for unexpected things to happen. And yeah, just to assess both regularly. So are my grades still where I want them to be? Are they dropping? You know, how am I getting on? What does my, you know, how is my job coming along too? Am I doing the best work I can be doing? And if not, then you need to refine things and tweak things a little bit, but to constantly assess and be realistic with the timetable.
Great.
I would say.
We have another question from Twitter. What was the hardest part about switching from college to your career as a fellow?
Ooh,
Who wants to start? Go ahead, Deirdre.
Okay, the hardest thing about switching from college to career. Well, I mean, for me, it was probably I moved country, so that for me was a big one, just geographically. I guess it was kind of being around different people and people having different views on things and being far away from your family and friends. That was tough for me. But on the flip side of that, how did I overcome it? It's, I guess, another essential skill I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, it's just kind of being open-minded and adaptable and flexible with things, But any transition is going to be tough. And anybody who's in college now knows that the transition from high school to college was difficult too, But you have to embrace it and just kind of go with the flow of it, I guess, too, and not take yourself too seriously in it and be able to have fun, as long as you're happy throughout it all. I think it eases that transition.
Great. Aurora?
Okay, so the hardest part for me, I guess, was just the focus of all your goals. So for example, for me, when you're in college, especially as a history major, you usually do all your own projects, you're writing papers, for yourself. But when you transition to career, your scope kind of widens to think about the whole team as a whole. So that for me was a big changing point, to realize that everyone works together, and that your projects matter for everyone and for the future of the place you're working, So like I try to do everything to the best of my ability to support CFES, instead of just myself anymore. And that kind of can take some time to adjust to. And then also, even though I'm not from another country, it is, it's different living on your own and starting over again, because you did that in college. When you go away, you don't live with your family anymore, so you kind of go through that again a second time. But it's easier because you did it once.
Yeah, great, thanks. So I guess we'll go on to our next essential skill. Deirdre?
Yep, I'm up. Okay. So my next essential skill, the previous couple that I spoke about, I guess, were more focused towards college, but this one is kind of more about career. So like I said, I mentioned it briefly just when we were talking about the transition, is the essential skills of being adaptable and open-minded. So you're coming into something new, fresh, whether it's being adaptable to be able to sit in a different setting all day or do things that you mightn't necessarily have done before. And the major thing that I would say about this is that you're going to be joining, unless you're beginning a startup company or something like this, the likelihood is that you're going to be joining a team. People who have been in your position before, maybe not necessarily in this position starting new as a new career, but they have been as a first-time graduate, going into career for a first time. So people have been in your shoes. So what I would say to combat that is to put yourself out there, say yes to as much as you can, and to know that you have a team of people there that you can fall back on that will be supporting you if ever you find yourself in difficult times. But the best way, I think, to embrace that adaptability and flexibility is to just do as much as you can and engage fully. Again, like my first point, I think it always comes back to engagement. So yeah, say yes and don't dismiss anything before you try it.
Great advice. Mm-hmm. Aurora?
Okay, so my next essential skill that I think helps out in college especially, and then also in career later on, is networking with your college professors, and then I guess in career with your coworkers. So networking with my professors is a great tool for me to get the most out of my college experience. For example, I only studied abroad in the area I studied abroad, which was Florence, Italy, because I got to know my professors, and my professor invited me to go with him. So I went, and then I also had another opportunity to be a couple different people's research assistants while I was in college. And that was because I took the time to get to know my professors and show them that I cared about their subjects, and they rewarded me with some great experience with doing research projects for them and to help them with their work. And one of the research grants I got was, to go work on an archaeological dig in Italy. And I actually got that fully funded by my school because of my professor's help. I didn't pay a penny, and then they also nominated me for a classical scholarship. I got that too because of their help. So I think the more that you get to know people that are your professors and you treat them as people and friends, and get to know them, because they are, working in the profession they're working in because they care about their students for the most part, because they want to help you and get to know you. And because I took the time to do that, I felt like my college experience was as rich as it could possibly be. And I don't think I really could have got more out of it because of that. And it might be awkward in the beginning to kind of try to get to know your professors, especially, you know, walking in as a freshman, you know, don't know anyone. Who are these, you know, older men standing in front of me in the room, or women, you know, there's men and women professors. But, you know, a good way to get to know them is to go to their office hours, because I'm pretty sure every professor has hours when they are available in their office and waiting for students to walk in. And in my experience, half the time people don't walk in unless there's a big project. So I would say just go, you know, to their office hours, get to know them. And, you know, if you're struggling or preparing for a test or a big project, I would say maybe let them see your outline, you know, and get their feedback, because I think that's the best way that you can be successful in your work is by getting their feedback. So the ones grading it. So, and by even demonstrating that you are putting that effort in, they're going to give you the benefit of a doubt, usually, when it comes to grading it. And that also carries over into career, because once you learn how to network with these people that you had never known before and that are, you know, so distinguished and smart, like these people have been in school forever, you know, they have PhDs in like 5 different subjects. You know, once you learn how to get over the initial intimidation of becoming friends and getting to know these people, I think it helps you in the workplace get to know the people that, you know, might be older than you or more experienced or have more degrees as well than you. And I think it helps you, you know, really get to know your workplace, and it helps you get people, you know, if you need help with a project when you start off work, which I know I definitely did a lot of times. And it, you know, it helped me get to know them, so I felt more comfortable asking for help.
Mm-hmm. Great. Deirdre?
Yeah, well, I guess I kind of just wanted to, I think I've shared the majority of things, that not to like overwhelm you with too many tips or anything, but I think I've shared the majority of things that I wanted to say, other than just to try and keep in your mind that you should be happy throughout it all. You know, of course, there's going to be deadlines coming up and exams coming up and that sort of thing that nobody ever wants to do, you know, but I mean, in a general scheme of things, you know, it's important to remain happy and to keep your mind and your body like awake and energized. That it's very important to engage in, again, like my first point, in activities and that sort of thing, in order to just overall keep a kind of positive mind frame. Because if ever you find yourself falling into, you know, a dump, which can happen quickly, especially if you're away from home, if you're, you know, you're not living at home like before, if maybe it's one of your first years and you haven't really connected with people in your class that much or anything, I would say, you know, you always need to assess your situation. And like that, if ever you feel, everyone has down days, but if ever you're kind of feeling continuously down, then it's time to kind of reach out, call family, spend time with people who make you happy, do things that are making you happy, and just try to kind of overall keep that positive persona and mind frame going, because it's, you know, it's a small period of your life and you want to be able to look back on it and say, oh, it was an absolutely excellent experience and I wouldn't have changed the majority of it for the world, you know. So that would be my final tip, just to kind of try and stay happy and positive about it all.
That's great advice. Glass half full.
Yeah,
We do have
exactly.
another question.
I'll tell you because I'm back here behind the camera. So EY College Map wants to know a follow-up. So being willing to simply ask for things from others' works, do you have some more examples?
Is that for me?
I believe so.
Okay, well, I didn't necessarily ask for anything. I was invited because I took the time to get to know my professors. So I didn't say, hey, you have some like opportunities for me because I want to go have some fun. My professors got to know the type of person I was and the things that would motivate me and make me happy and more enriched as a student. And they asked me to go along because I thought I would be a good fit. So I don't think just asking for opportunities is the best way. Although if you are genuinely curious about one thing, there's no harm in asking. But I think things will happen naturally once you take the time to network.
I can follow up on that too. I definitely reached out and asked for a lot of things while I was in college, specifically to the Access program, for which I had so much support. I remember I was struggling a lot with my mathematics class in first and second year, so I reached out to my advisor there and I told her the situation and I said, look, is there any way you can help me in getting grinds or anything like this? And she said, yep, we have a pool of money set aside for this exact reason, you know. And had I have not reached out and genuinely asked and said I was in need of of support in that academic sense, I wouldn't have got it. So that would be one example of when I actually reached out and asked for something. But definitely, if you express any sort of a need or want, and you have a good kind of access service there, or guidance counselor or something like this, like, people are going to do their best to try and resolve any issues that you have, and whether that be financially or socially or academically or whatever that will be, there are people there who it is their job to help you, and it's their job because that's what they love to do. And if you just kind of reach out and ask for anything in that sense, there will be somebody on hand to assist in some way. So.
Great advice, ladies. So, do either of you have anything else?
Yeah, I had one more thing, just briefly.
Go
I just think the biggest way to be successful is to find things that you're passionate about. I think a lot of the essential skills that we're talking about will come naturally if you find something that generally or genuinely motivates you and drives you to get things done and to do more and to push yourself. So, I would just say, to students out there in high school or wherever you are, to, just really try to find out what motivates you and try to make a career out of it.
All right, great tips. So thank you, Aurora and Deirdre, for volunteering to do our live chat today. If you're graduating this spring or a recent college graduate and you're interested in a fellowship with College for Every Student, you can check it out at collegefes.org. The live feed will be on collegefes.org also on our website. And don't forget to join us for our next live chat, February 28th at 1 p.m. with trauma surgeon John Fortune. And that will be streamed live from our Adirondack School, Saranac Central. Thank you, and we'll see you there.
Yes,
Thank you, Elaine.
You're welcome. Thanks, ladies.